In 2019, murder rate of 44 per 100,000 inhabitants were one of the highest in the world and is partly responsible for the waves of migrants fleeing towards the United States in search of a better life. Bats and snakes are still being sold at the Temuhon Extreme Meat Market on Indonesia's Sulawesi Island, despite a government request to take them off the menu over fears of a link to the deadly coronavirus. Bats, rats, and snakes are still being sold at an Indonesian market known for its wildlife offerings, despite a government request to take them off the menu over fears of a link to the deadly coronavirus. Vendors at the Tomohan Extreme Meat Market on Sulawesi Island says business is booming and curious tourists keep arriving to check out exotic fare that enrages animal rights activists. But scientists are debating how the new virus, which has killed more than 1,100 people in China and spread to dozens of countries around the world, was transmitted to humans. A wildlife market in Wuhan, the epicenter of the virus, is thought to be ground zero, and there is suspicion it could have originated in bats. The possible link wasn't on many radar screens at the Indonesian market, however. Its grubby stalls feature a dizzying array of animals, including giant snakes, rats impaled on sticks, and charred dogs with their hair seared off by blowtorches. A gory scene described by some critics as like walking through hell. Bat seller Stanley Timbuleng says he's still moving his fare for as much as 60,000 rupiah or $4.40 a kilogram to buyers in the area where bats are a specialty in local cuisine. This despite a request from the local government and the health agency to take bats and other wildlife out of circulation, a call that has been all but ignored. Indonesia has not yet reported a confirmed case of the virus. In the capital Jakarta, vendors selling skinned snakes and cobra blood on a recent Saturday night didn't have any trouble finding takers. Vietnam's first ever Grand Prix still has the green light to go ahead on April 5, despite concerns over the COVID-19 virus. The chaos in China's sporting program caused by the deadly coronavirus outbreak, which has already forced China to cancel or reschedule a host of events, is spreading into Asia's sporting calendar. On Monday, golf's LPGA Tour canceled the HSBC Women's World Champions and the LPGA Thailand. Here is the latest rundown of Asian sporting spectacles affected by the outbreak. This month's HSBC Women's World Championship in Singapore and the LPGA Thailand were canceled Monday, meaning the U.S. LPGA Tour has been forced to scrap all three of its lucrative early season events in Asia after China's Blue Bay tournament was canned 10 days ago. The Women's Asia Pacific Amateur Championship in Thailand next week has also fallen, while the PGA Tour's third-tier China Series has been forced to move qualifying events to Indonesia and Thailand. No decision has been made yet by the men's European Tour as to whether its flagship China Open in April will go ahead in the city of Shenzhen. The Hong Kong Women's Open, originally scheduled for next month, has been shifted to May. China has suspended all domestic football and postponed indefinitely the top-flight Chinese Super League season, which was due to kick off on February 22nd. The virus has had a big impact on Asia's continental competitions, with 4 Chinese clubs' home group matches in the AFC Champions League, which begins this week, being postponed until at least April and May. No decision has been made yet on Asia's World Cup qualifying matches next month. China are due to host the Maldives on March 26 and play in Guam 5 days later. Fixtures involving Hong Kong and Taiwan could also be in doubt. A women's Olympic qualifying event between China, Taiwan, Thailand, and Australia, scheduled for last week in Wuhan, the disease epicenter, was moved initially to Nanjing, then to Sydney. The China women's football team were quarantined in a Brisbane hotel on Wednesday after arriving in Australia for the tournament, but have been given the all-clear to play, and the delayed tournament will wrap up this week. Up next, Maduro accuses the U.S. of waging an invisible war against Venezuela. Justin Trudeau takes questions from Senegalese students at the Cheikh Anta Diop University. Ontario's teachers strike in support of funding for public education. This is Eagle News.
sa mga viewers namin sa Middle East at North Africa via OSN, hello po sa inyong lahat dyan. Ako po si Sam Cepeda.
Ako po si Olivia Nagit Figueroa at araw-araw tayong magkasama sa Mata ng Agila.
Dito po sa Net25 at OSN, sigurado at home ka dito.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
You're watching Eagle News. I'm Arnie Aquino. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro accuses the United States of waging an invisible war against Venezuela following new U.S. sanctions against the country's flagship airline, adding that this war, quote, leaves more wounded and more dead at times than visible wars. Venezuela said it has asked the International Criminal Court to investigate U.S. sanctions against Nicolas Maduro's government as possible crimes against humanity. Foreign Minister Jorge Arriaza said that in a historic event, he had formally referred the issue to the prosecutor of the Hague-based tribunal as being a form of economic warfare. He said he hoped it could be a test case for other U.S. sanctions, for example, by Caracas allies Iran and Cuba. There was no immediate reaction from the ICC, which was set up in 2002 to try the world's worst crimes, including war crimes and crimes against humanity. The U.S. has not signed up to the court, but the ICC can claim jurisdiction over issues that affect people in member states such as Venezuela. The court can, however, only try individuals for crimes, not states, and Arriaza did not say if the case specifically named any alleged suspects. The move came a day after opposition leader Juan Guaido defended foreign sanctions against the countries imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump following his return from an international tour. Washington imposed sanctions on Venezuela's oil industry last year, targeting the country's main source of hard currency, and it recently hit its flag airline, Conviesa. The ICC has already launched a preliminary investigation in 2018 into alleged abuses by Venezuelan security forces during a wave of protests against Maduro. Canada and 5 of Venezuela's regional rivals, Argentina, Colombia, Chile, Paraguay, Peru, have also formally referred the matter to the court. While on a visit to Senegal, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau takes questions from students at Cheikh Anta Diop University. The questions largely concern scholarships and concerns over an African brain drain to Canada. His office said on Saturday, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau heads to Africa, aiming to tighten relations as the country campaigns for a United Nations Security Council seat.
À première vue, le Canada et le Sénégal peuvent paraître comme deux endroits très différents, situés sur deux continents, séparés par un océan. Mais adopter une vision aussi étroite du monde, c'est mal comprendre les défis auxquels nous sommes tous confrontés. Mes chers amis, cette nouvelle décennie peut être le début d'un nouveau chapitre pour le Canada et le Sénégal, pour les jeunes Canadiens et la jeunesse africaine. Le Canada veut être votre partenaire à part égale et à part entière.
À travers le système d'immigration que vous avez mis en place, est-ce que, quelque part, vous ne vous sentez pas coupable, en quelque sorte, de vider l'Afrique de ses cerveaux? Est-ce que, si vous voulez, la meilleure façon d'aider l'Afrique, ce ne serait pas, par exemple, d'implanter les entreprises canadiennes ici en Afrique?
Et c'est pour ça que nous investissons tant ici en Afrique en éducation. Ce n'est pas juste pour prendre vos meilleurs étudiants et les amener au Canada. C'est aussi pour aider à ce que ceux qui choisissent de rester, qui restent, puissent créer des opportunités, des avantages ici.
Trudeau is to visit Ethiopia and Senegal, as well as Germany, before his trip ends on February 14. In Addis Ababa, he is to meet Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize winner, appointed after several years of anti-government protests, and Saleh Work Zewde, the country's first female president. He will additionally meet leaders attending the African Union Summit. On the other side of the continent, in Senegal, his office said he will meet President Macky Sall and participate in a series of events to further our two countries' already strong ties through La Francophonie. The final leg of the tour will take Trudeau to Germany for the Munich Security Conference. It added the visits will focus on economic opportunity and prosperity, climate change, democracy, and gender equality. Canada is seeking a non-permanent seat on the UN Security Council, a position it has not held since the year 2000. Ontario teachers walk out for the second week of their one-day province-wide strike in support of funding for public education. Ashley Sackmar with the details.
We are here today at Front Street in the city of Toronto, where the ETFO, or the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, walks out for the second week of their one-day province-wide strike in support of funding for public education. Elementary classes are suspended as 83,000 members of the ETFO, or the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario, gather at the picket lines to protest Ford government's cuts to education. Last year in November, ETFO voted for a Work to Rule campaign, which escalated to an ongoing 2-week rotating strike from various school boards across the province from February 3rd to February 13th after no agreement was made between the provincial government and the teachers' union. In connection to this, various school boards, including the Toronto District School Board, or TDSB, announced the cancellation of first-term report cards for elementary school students as part of the Work to Rule job action campaign by the ETFO. According to a member of the ETFO, "We strongly believe in things we are fighting for, and as a result will not concede just to reach an easy agreement. We will continue to fight for our students, to protect their rights to quality public education, and to fight for what we believe in." As a result of the situation, the Ford government recently announced a reimbursement up to $60 per day in childcare costs, specifically for parents of kids up to age 12. According to Chatelaine News, ETFO members continue to advocate for special education resources, increase salary wages by 1.9% at inflation rate, smaller class sizes to reduce violent incidents in classrooms, protection for Ontario's full-day kindergarten program, fair hiring practices and fair compensation for educators, such as occasional teachers, early childhood educators, professional personnel, and support. The goal is for the Ford government and Stephen Lecce, Minister of Education, to return to the bargaining table to resume contract talks, according to Sam Hammond, Union President of ETFO.
We need public education to be properly funded. We need to reverse the cuts. And Stephen Lecce, we are tired of the narrative that teachers are out here for themselves. We are not out here for ourselves. We are out here because we love our work, we love students, we love teaching, and we want to be back in the classroom. We are so supported by our brothers, sisters, comrades in the labor movement, and we are shoulder to shoulder and standing together to fight for the future of public education. You're incredible, ETT. Your smiling faces and your energy and your enthusiasm is so contagious. And Ontario's going to know, and educators throughout Canada are going to know and see that Ontario teachers, Ontario education workers care about kids and care about their futures. Thank you so much, and we'll continue to stand strong today. Solidarity, ETT. You're amazing.
What began as talks and contract negotiations between the teachers' unions and the Ontario government back in 2019 has escalated to a series of rotating strikes that has left thousands of classrooms empty in Ontario. From Toronto, Canada, Ashley Sakmar, Eagle News 1 with 25.
Still to come, in sports, Toronto Raptors extend winning streak against the Brooklyn Nets, and USA top Canada 3-1 in rivalry series. You're watching Eagle News.
Para sa mga viewers namin sa Middle East at North Africa via OSN,
hello sa inyong lahat dyan. Ako po si Madeline Villar Moratillo.
Ako po si Cristal Pisalbon at araw-araw ninyong makakasama sa Agila Provincia.
Dito sa Net25 at OSN, siguradong at home ka dito.
May iba't ibang klase ng museo. Ang mga museo ay institution na naatasang mangolekta, magpakita at mangalaga ng mga artifacts na mahalaga sa kasaysayan at ibahagi ang cultural at natural heritage. Sa pagbisita sa museo, lumalawak ang iyong kaalaman. Kaya naman dapat itong tangkilikin at pahalagahan.
To do an interview. Your teacher asks you to do an interview about a topic you have been discussing in class. You really want to do well with this project, so what do? Here are some tips to help you do your best.
This is Eagle News. I'm Arnie Aquino. The Toronto Raptors take on the Brooklyn Nets at Scotiabank Arena. Adrian Pangilinan with more.
The defending champion Toronto Raptors were back home at Scotiabank Arena looking to extend their franchise-best 13-game win streak against the Brooklyn Nets. Point guard Kyle Lowry exited the previous contest against the Indiana Pacers with what is being labeled as a whiplash injury. So he sat the game, though the Raptors are hopeful he will make his return before the All-Star game. Speaking of All-Stars, the NBA has officially announced the rosters for the All-Star game, which will take place on February 15th. From the Toronto Raptors, Pascal Siakam will start for Team Giannis. Kyle Lowry will be a reserve, and Nick Nurse will coach the team. This is the first appearance for Siakam and coach Nick Nurse, and the 6th consecutive for Kyle Lowry. The team will be well represented come All-Star Weekend, a fitting way to top off the past year as defending champions. The Raptors are on pace to top last season's record, something many thought would not be possible after losing their finals MVP. But the Raptors keep winning games because of their tough mentality and resiliency throughout all the injuries. Multiple guys have stepped up to either lead the team in scoring or make key defensive adjustments, which has resulted in the second-best record in the Eastern Conference as of Saturday night. This team truly believes they can make it back to the finals to defend their title. Fortunately for the Raptors, they were able to continue their win streak, which now stands at 14 games. Simply unbelievable. Norman Powell and Marc Gasol have missed the last few games, but that hasn't seemed to matter because the Raptors just find ways to win. In Saturday night's contest, Fred VanVleet scored 29 points in the narrow 119-118 victory. Nick Nurse had commented on the contribution of his bench play.
Well, our assistant coaches and stuff try to do a great job keeping those guys ready. I think the mindset of, you never know and stay ready maybe helps a little bit once in a while when you don't hit the scouting report because you haven't played for a while too, right? So that's another thing. It's okay.
The Raptors elected to make no moves at the trade deadline, while many of their counterparts in the Eastern Conference tried to stay aggressive. But the faith in this roster has not wavered in general manager Bobby Webster. Earlier in a press conference, he said that, "We haven't been healthy all year, so I think where we are now we'd all take with some improvement." We'll just have to wait and see if his patience will be rewarded as we enter the All-Star Weekend. From Scotiabank Arena, I'm Adian Pangilinan, Eagle News, 1 and 25.
The Canada-USA rivalry series marked the first time since the Canadian and United States women's national hockey teams took to the ice at Rogers Arena, dating back to the gold medal game at the Vancouver 2010 Winter Olympic Games. Anthony Savillo has more.
One of the greatest rivalries in hockey, and arguably in all of sports, reignited as the Canadian and United States women's national hockey teams faced off for the fourth time in this Canada-US rivalry series. The United States bounced back in this game to defeat Canada 3-1 at Rogers Arena. This also marked the first time that Canada and the United States women's teams faced off at Rogers Arena since the gold medal game back into the Vancouver 2010 Winter Olympics, where Canada came out on top to claim the gold. Few members from that national team that settled for silver back in 2010 were present in this roster, including forward Hillary Knight.
Yeah, a lot of it's from 2010. Had some back and forth after our gold medal loss with the fans up here, so definitely take that to heart. And they were pretty quiet the entire game, but happy we could get a win and go back to home soil and play in front of our home crowd. Yeah, so, it's salt from 10 years ago, but obviously a celebration there's a lot of passion, and I think that's what brings out the best of us, both teams. Great competitive environment. We could play these guys 100 days out of the year and it would still be the same. And I think that's what the fans feel, and they feel that fabric of the competitive rivalry. Obviously, with games we technically won, but it doesn't matter. There's a lot of pride on the line when these two nations duel it out.
There's a few players in that room that were here in 2010, and we all watched it who weren't there, and so yeah, there's definitely a revenge factor for those guys and for this group coming into this building. Yeah, there definitely was some leadership that spoke up between periods, and it was an important piece to our success. And there's some people in the room that never lost an Olympic gold medal, which is awesome. But there are a lot that have. So it was a great moment to hear from those guys for sure.
Despite falling short, the support for Canada was evident, as the arena was high energy throughout the entire game. Many youth hockey players, both girls and boys, came out to support Canada's women's national team. Jocelyn Larocque and Emerence Moshmeyer from Canada gave their thoughts on the support from the fans and the feeling being part of the growth of women's hockey in Canada.
It's always such an honor to play in front of a home crowd, and it's something that I know myself and my teammates, we look forward to. And, the energy, how loud they were, it it's hard to put into words. It's amazing, and I feel so proud to be from such an amazing country that supports us and loves us, and we love them.
Yeah, the fans have been incredible. Even the other day in Victoria, just being on the bench, you get chills listening to the fans cheering, right after O Canada, and it's an incredible feeling. And today, the fans brought the exact same energy, just what I expected. The last time that the women's hockey was here in Vancouver, it was the Olympics, and I got to watch that on TV. And you have big expectations for the crowd, and they met it completely. So. Yeah, it's awesome that we have that opportunity to play in front of so many female hockey players and even, young boys. And so it's important, especially right now in this transition time that female hockey's in. Any kind of time we have to showcase and, reach out to the youth, it's important, and the impact goes a long way.
Canada and the United States will play the 5th and final game of the rivalry series at the Honda Center in Anaheim, California. From Vancouver, Anthony Sevilla, Eagle News, always one with 25.
That is this week's Eagle News. Join us next week for stories that matter to you. Visit our websites at eaglenews.net and eaglenewslive.com. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/eaglenews and on Facebook at facebook.com/eaglenews. Thank you for watching. I'm Arnie Aquino. I'm one with 25.